You hear that? So he did that quicker today. That's a nice blowout, and he didn't do that on the ground, which is interesting. So that means we set it up right where he's finding relief, because he's the most relaxed now after blowing out than what we did on the ground. So that's a win right there. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We're here with Dooney again. This is our second session.
6 months ago, my horse trainer was working with him, and he threw the buck, and she went off and landed in the hospital and in intensive care for several months.
Wow.
Almost killed her.
And I was just talking to his owner, Kathleen, and the overall theme is we need to get him to see us as the leader, and then we need to increase his thresholds or tolerances of things to make him safer to ride under saddle. So we're gonna see what we can get done. Let's get into it. I wanna thank the sponsor of today's video, ABI Attachments. More about that in a minute. So the way you get a horse to see you as the leader, so he needs to trust me, but he needs to also see the human as the leader. And in horse world, horse speak, the way you do that is by controlling their feet. But he's gotta do it in a relaxed way. It's gotta be light, he's gotta be participating in it. So it's not just moving his body around and that guarantees that we got to his mind. It's doing less first and expecting a high quality of response to what we're asking for, or high quality of understanding is a better way to say it, of what we're asking for. And so I like to think about it in terms of like percentages. You know, so it's like I wanna get the goal is 100% out of every thing we ask. What's back up, hind quarter yield, forequarter yield, side pass, circle, you name it. We're not going to get that the first time, but that has to be the goal. And so to get 100% out of, let's say, a hind quarter yield, there would be slack in the rope. He would pivot on his front feet and yield his hindquarters until he sees me out of the other eye. So a big focus with him is going to be hind quarter yields and yielding his rib cage right there. See, he kind of signed up, participate. He saw me out of his right eye. That would be better. But now I had to go a little faster. I had to put a little feel on the rope. And so I would give that a 60%, you know. And so what I was kind of explaining to her is that on a bad day, you're banking on some of the stuff that you put into it, so that on a bad day, your minimum is 60%. On a good day, it should be 70, 80, 90%. And so on a bad day could be like the weather's bad, it's windy, another horse is acting up, there's more commotion going on, maybe you're not feeling great, you know, you had some stress going on in your life. So all those things are gonna affect how our horse is day to day. Now here, he anticipated me walking over there, so this time I'm just gonna go over here and rub him. Because I hadn't got to the part where I asked him to yield his hindquarters yet. And so in that example, he read my energy, not my intention. My intention was to come over here and start to ask, but he beat me to it. And so that would be more of a reaction than a response. So anytime he gives me a reaction, I'm just gonna rub him and wait till it's more relaxed. And I'll step back, change my intention, and there, that was almost 100%. That was really good. It was a really good quality yield there. Same thing. And we've noticed that from the first session that he's more defensive on his right side, is the way I would describe it. He kind of knows what to do on this side, but he is a little more protective of things on this side. And it doesn't take much to cause a horse to do that. You know, you need to train a horse equally on both sides, but all it takes is maybe a bad experience on this right side, and that can turn into an issue. Of course, you know, a horse can have a physical issue, and that's why they maybe are worse on one side or the other, but with him, we're feeling pretty confident that it's more of a mental issue. That was better. Very good. Everything he does is like pretty classic, like a horse that didn't have a thorough foundation, had holes. And now I'm not gonna focus a lot on his forequarter yield. We tend to do that more with horses that are more dominant or what we call left-brained. He is innately a little more right-brained, and he holds tension in his rib cage. And so getting him to blow out the way to do that is going to be bending his ribs. So the 3-circle game is gonna be really powerful for him. And then also side passing. So ABI Attachments hooked me up with the TR3 E-Series Arena Drag. And this thing is incredible. I mean, it is like having a personal assistant for your arena, because it does everything. It's got a scraping blade here that kind of aerates the soil and can cut out grass if you got some grass growing in. It's got a floating leveling blade that is incredible for keeping consistency throughout the whole arena. And then all the different settings of the drags that breaks up and loosens the material. And then of course their patented comb that they have here at the back just lays a really nice finishing layer down at the end. This drag is blowing me away with how easy it is to pull. It's super easy to use because you can just drop it all the way down and it rests, the frame of it rests on these wheels. And so it takes out a lot of the operator error that can happen with making some whoop-de-doos in the arena as you go. So if you guys are in the market for an arena drag, you are definitely going to want to check out the ABI attachments. They have applications for everybody's different uses, and make sure you check them out. I'll leave a link in the description below. Let's get back to the video. So for this 3-circle game, I'm just really looking. You can see he wants to walk a circle, which is nice, but he needs to do a partial disengagement in his hindquarters. And this is, again, exactly what I'm going to ask for with the relaxed rein technique when I'm riding him. And I'm asking him to put his body in a more vulnerable position. And so horses kind of come out of the box with a counter bend, and they want to walk around with their ribs to the inside and their nose to the outside. And that's every horse's innate response. So to whatever degree your horse doesn't circle like that or doesn't ride like that, somebody or you took the time to teach them not to go like that. And we want him to find some comfort and relief in this position. And oh, I like this on this right side. He's turning loose to this a little better today. Very good. Very good. So you see that partial disengagement there? And where the money is at the trot, getting him to turn loose to this at a trot. Because the trot gets him breathing a little more, where he'll start to turn loose to that a little bit more. And I'm not interested in how long he does it for. I'm interested in the quality of how he's moving around and him starting to hold that position. So when I release him is when I feel like I was able to do less and he started to hold that position. So with this hand, I like to keep it by my hip, and then I use the stick kind of like a ski pole here. If I needed forward, I would go like this. But when I want bend, I hold the stick vertically like this. There. So we had a few steps there when I said there, but prior to that, we had a few steps through here where he held it and he bent his head and neck in. It was just a few moments in it, but we want to grow that to where he can hold that position for longer and longer. Now, you were side passing him on the fence, but I would also like to encourage you to start side passing him off the fence because this is a lot harder because they're going to be tempted to walk forward. And so why I'm interested in this for him is I want him to be very thoughtful about everything he's doing. So he ran into pressure with the stick, me waving it up and down here when he crossed that line. So I'm going to look, I kind of line up with the T-post over there, and I'm going to walk on this line and I'm going to ask him to side pass without going forward. And so he knows how to side pass, but he doesn't know how to not go forward yet. And then I'm going to let him kind of get relief. So he runs into pressure when he goes forward and he gets relief here. What people are tempted to do is try to manage that with the lead rope, and don't do that. It's about him having to connect to the idea. That's where the value's at, is him thinking. So he's innately, in my opinion, a more right-brained horse, what I would call a right-brain introvert. But every horse has a left-brain side, right? And it's like a muscle. The more you expose them to that, the stronger it gets. Also, the more they can stay left-brained in a more intense situation, like if he can stay left-brained while he's trotting or loping or side passing, that will also make it stronger. It's like adding more weight to an exercise that you're doing, or sprinting versus walking or jogging. It's more intense. It's going to have a little more value there in certain types. So we want to build how long he can stay there, but then we want to build the strength of it too. Oh, see that? Now, it's interesting, see how much pressure it takes to get him to go on the ground compared to riding? There we go. So there's a couple steps of improvement. He's only reactive under saddle because of previous, what we would call learned behavior. So there's different things that make up the horse that you have here. There's innate disposition. And that's where we said he's kind of a sensitive horse, or I'm calling him more of a right brain introvert. Then there's learned behavior, which we're saying he's had some negative learned behavior, maybe, or is missing some learned behaviors that he could have had earlier on in his training. And then there's kind of his spirit level, like how much is he? And I'm saying he's kind of a medium spirited horse. And then there's the environment, or maybe you could call it the day, like the wind and whatever. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean just the fact that we're here where he lives. It's other factors to that. And so he is influenced by the environment quite a bit, but you can't change their innate disposition. You can get a horse better in different environments. You can't change their spirit level, but there's a lot of room to improve their learned behaviors, and that's what we're after with these sessions. So it's interesting that his learned behavior on the ground is to kind of ignore pressure a little bit and wear it a little bit. Under saddle, it's to react to it. So we got to reverse that a little bit. He needs to get a little lighter on the ground, which will show us that he's turning loose to our leadership a little bit more. And then we need to get him to be more relaxed with pressure under saddle. Yeah. Again, you see him not perfect, but you see him putting a little bit of effort into it. Yeah, and that's going to be so the 3-circle game is going to be a great one. You're going to do that pretty much every day. Side passing, you're going to do that pretty much every day. So now we're going to approach and retreat with a little bit of speed and distance. Yesterday he got pretty bothered when we started adding some distance. I like this already. It's a little bit better. And then his owner also disclosed that he had kind of learned to pull away on the ground a little bit. And so that's something that we experienced a little bit yesterday when he got more upset. But we'll just let him do some trotting here at first. Wow, way better today. And I want him to do a little bit of work out there, even though it's good, because yesterday I kind of learned that getting him to breathe was very helpful for him, getting him to blow out and relax. There's a little bit of snortiness there. See his tail's getting a little jade, head went up. The mic probably didn't pick it up, but he started snorting a little bit. Super. Much better. So I'm going to speed him up even more. And again, that's a little bit of an emotional fitness test. So I put a little pressure on and then I slow down. See there, he stopped real herky-jerky. And I'd like him just to rate back. So we're gonna try it again. I'm gonna speed him up. And then I wanna see how long it takes for him to rate back. Not bad at all, very good. And this kind of fits to me with what I was saying is there's a lot of room for improvement with him. You know, he's not just innately wanting to be really worried. He is, but it's still not as high a level as yesterday. Because we have two signs. We have the J tail. Really nice. Really nice. We'll take that. Hey, if you guys are enjoying this video and you would like to see more detailed training videos and be able to ask me specific questions about your horse, consider joining my Patreon page. It's only $10 a month. You're gonna have access to all the videos. We do a fun monthly challenge that has a giveaway for the winner at the end, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. So we'll leave a link in the description below. Let's get back to the video. I'm just asking him to connect with me a little bit here as we walk forward and backward. So the stick, I'm trying to show him kind of where my bubble is, and I'm just asking him to stay connected with that. To kind of synchronize with me. And this is actually natural to horses because they learn to synchronize with their herd and with their mom when they're babies. And so as we kind of show him that we understand that too. And that's what we're asking for him to do under saddle. We're asking him to, if we're calm, you should be calm. If we get worried about something, okay, now you can get worried about something. But otherwise, stay connected with us. So there's like three categories of things that you're gonna ask him to do on the ground. There's emotional fitness exercises like speeding up on the circle or the flag, which we're about to do. Then there's some mental exercises that we're gonna do. And that's like the side passing, the hind quarter yield, getting him to pay attention. Obstacles are really great for that. And then there's some connection exercises that you can do. That's where liberty training becomes part of a good foundation on a horse, them connecting to us, them following us, them being able to turn with us, things like this. So one of the liberty exercises that I like to do is I want him to be my shadow. So right now he's kind of lagging behind. I'm just gonna ask him to kind of catch up. And I'll kind of swing the stick and string at him, and then I'll shorten up on the lead rope here. Very good. And then once he gets caught up to my elbow, then I'll just rub on him here. And you want to do this on both sides. So now I'm going to ask him to change directions. And I'm going to do that by going through the middle of the circle that I was just on. And I'll present the stick on the other side. And this fits along with practicing with him getting comfortable on both eyes. So now I need him to catch up here. You know, it's interesting, a lot of people, I hear it all the time, oh, they're good on this side, not as good on that side. And it's really true with him. Like, it would definitely be beneficial to try to put 2/3 of your time on the right side and 1/3 on the left side. I would try to get in the habit of starting on this side and then finishing on this side and go to the left side as the middle part. Like he's pretty significantly lopsided on a lot of things. There we go. So yeah, that'd be a really good one to practice with him quite a bit of. And the secret is you can use the rope as much as you need to, but don't use it first. That's the name of the game with that. So we're gonna go ahead back to an emotional fitness exercise here with the flag. So I'm gonna follow what I was just saying there, and I'm gonna do this on his right side first and last. So I'm just gonna ask him in my intention to walk a circle, but the flag is going to be noisy. And the flag represents any sort of commotion that can come up while you're working with your horse. Whether it's the wind, another horse, a vehicle driving by. And so the flag represents some energy and some commotion that's going on. But in my internal feel that I'm offering him, which horses are very aware of, more so than humans are aware of it too, right? You know if somebody's in a bad mood when they walk in the house and they don't have to say anything, but the kind of energy and the feel that they have, their intention, their facial expressions, you can infer what kind of mood they're in, right? But horses are way more sensitive to this than we are. It's in their DNA and their wiring to read the environment, to know if it's safe to go drink right now, safe to put their head down and eat, and kind of what's going on there. And so, especially with the predator on the end of the rope here, he's very much paying attention to what my internal intention is. And that comes from our eyes and our belly button. That's why I see a lot of people when they're releasing a horse, they'll turn away from them or they'll crouch down. They're just trying to make that intentions as little as possible. And you can see the more I give him leadership, he actually is wanting to connect with me. He's not becoming more afraid of me, because I'm doing everything I'm doing has a way for him to win the game, and it's fair. I don't start off by just, I'm not really fast in how I do it, at least to start with. And there's a way that he can get relief from the pressure when he connects to it. And horses like that. They like to get along with that. So you can see that's a big difference already. So we'll take that. Now we'll go to this side. So here my intention is for him to move. So if I want him to trot, I'll actually get quieter. I'll have a little voice cue there. Maybe a little tap. And I'm just picking what I think would be an achievable level of energy from the flag. So he's reading the flag now instead of my intention. This is kind of what we had going on yesterday with my legs. If I was riding him and I let my legs lay against his sides, he read that as, oh, you want to go. And I was like, no, my seat and the rest of my energy intention didn't say go fast yet. I just happened to relax my legs on his side. I really wasn't even squeezing. I said I was, but it was very just kind of laying my legs on there. Or rest, I could even say resting my legs on there. So this is where you got to be able to read him. He is trotting, he's not cantering or taking off, but he's not relaxed. And so we're going to do this until he softens. He doesn't have to be perfectly relaxed, but he has to make a little change. There it is. Head dropped, speed reduced. He just made a subtle little shift. That's all it took. So I'm constantly releasing him on softness. And they like that, and so that's why he won't see me as the big mean cowboy that showed up and challenged him a lot. He will actually find comfort with me because he realizes every time he gets relaxed, I retreat. And so he's going to feel really good about it. And it's funny because I'll hear owners say, oh, I bet you're happy to, they'll look at their horse and, oh, I bet you're happy he's gone or whatever. And it's like, actually, I bet the horse would prefer the way I'm doing it because I'm doing it with feel and building in his confidence and trust in me through this communication. But it's not how people think. I'm working with him how he thinks, not how people think. I'm asking him to tolerate and handle things that we need him to do, but I'm spending more time showing him that I know how he thinks and feels. And that is the challenge with horsemanship in general, is that all of our natural instincts are basically wrong. It's like, for instance, we would like to say, well, if you're calm, your horse will be calm. And people think that that would be innately true, and it's not. You have to teach them that when you're calm, they can be calm. Because innately, if a person gets really slow and sneaks around them, they might read that as being more suspicious, maybe a little creepy acting, And so what his instincts are and what my instincts are very different. So as a horseman, we have to learn to adjust our instincts to operate and think the way he would versus the way what's natural to us. And I think that's why a lot of times I feel like it's hard for me to sell my idea to people, because it's like it doesn't always make sense logically to how people would naturally think. So now I'm going to put him in a little bit of a bind here, is what we call it. And again, this is something that we do with colts. First, I'll see if I can just throw this lead rope over him. Make sure he's okay with this. And I'm just going to run it around the saddle horn here. And I want him to just work his way out of this bind. Now, if I wanted it to not be a bind, if I wanted it to be easier, I could run it around his hindquarters. But I want him to feel this pressure and respond, because yesterday I felt a little bit like the more I bent his head around, the more claustrophobic he felt. So I want him to just get exposed to this and again, think through the puzzle and kind of work his way out of it. So the answer to me is fairly clear. The pressure is definitely more on the right side of his nose. But what I'm going to say is it's really important that I hold my position. So when he moves, I maintain my position, but it's not my job to pull. See, I'll even soften there just a little bit. It's up to him to figure out how to get out of this bind. And he's got to make kind of a tight turn in order to do that. And that's where the challenge is. So this is a really good little pre-ride check to do. So all he's got to do is follow that feel and turn around and see me out of the other eye, but that's scary to horses. And what's also interesting, if you do this with a really quiet left-brained horse, they'll solve that puzzle way quicker and they will turn around slowly and softly. It took him a little while to figure it out, and then he whirled out of it pretty quick. So what you're looking for as you do this is for him to get around there like kind of right away when you present it to him, and then you're also looking for him to step through that quietly. So there's different metrics that you can use to measure the quality of something. And so one of those is how quickly did he solve the puzzle? And then the second one is how relaxed was he getting out of there? So he may not spin around softly today, but if he kind of finds that answer a little quicker, then that tells me there's a little more of a mental connection to my idea. But the ultimate goal would be to get all of it, you know. So you see, we got quicker in terms of he solved the puzzle quicker, but he still was a reaction through it. And every time you see a reaction, that's when you got to say to yourself, okay, that's something we got to keep chipping away at until it's a response, not a reaction through it. I don't think it's going to get perfect today, so we're just going to present it on the other side now and see if this way's harder or not. So you can see there, he's trying to put me more in two eyes, turning into the pressure versus away from it. See how braced up he is? He's actually leaning the other way. It's not funny, but it's just like, it's such a simple yield for a horse that's been ridden for years. You know, I expect a horse who's never been ridden to do this, but to me, it just shows the holes in his understanding of things, you know. And that's a big part of what I do, is I break things down for the horse. Because a horse can be made to do something for years and never really understand it. And a lot of times they'll see a horse who's anxious and they think it's because of the pressure. And it's not because of the pressure, it's because they don't understand the pressure. As they grow in their understanding of pressure, they get very relaxed with it. And sometimes it takes a while. This isn't a while yet. No. That's why you can't wear a watch when you're training horses. So that was average time lapse for a medium spirited horse. So today what you're seeing, in my opinion, is almost every exercise that I've done has been a bit challenging for him. And I'm a little more dialed in today of exactly the things that we need to be doing with him. And so pretty much everything that you're going to see in this video is things that very much should be done with him pretty regularly for the next month, basically. And also with a horse like him, a lot of horses, you don't want to have too much repetition or too much consistency because it can get them kind of dull to it and non-responsive to things. With him, anything that he still gets a little worried about, you can keep practicing it regularly because it'll just get him more relaxed with it. So you don't have to be super creative. If you find a handful of things that help settle him in as your warm-up for a setup for a good ride, you can ride on those things as long as you can. I'm going to go back to a little bit of canter work again. Check him out there. So much better today. We'll take it. So yesterday he got pretty bothered when I was moving the stirrups with him, so we're just gonna touch on that too. But you can tell he's just thinking through things, and there's just less significant reactions to things today. And this is what I had hoped to bring out in him more and more by what we're doing. So with him, the line that I'm also balancing is I'm trying to build his emotional fitness and expand that, but I also want him to win and be successful. And so he has to be relaxed and comfortable by the time you go to ride. So what that means is in the middle of the session is when you should do the biggest exposure things. And I'm still figuring out what those are. But you don't want to do those right before you get on, right? You could ease them into the session a little bit, do the side passing, some softer things, build them into it. Then you could get to some new things, some exposure things that you're going to do for the next 3 to 5 days. Maybe today it's speed, it's this rope, the turnaround, you know, and then you go back to some easier things right before you step on him to kind of build that in. Because he needs to get to where he's spending at least 80% of the session in a good frame of mind. That's kind of a general goal. And each session I'll add some new things on the ground just to check him out a little bit more and give you some different things, but you don't have to do all of them in one session. You can kind of just run through a handful. I actually, though, today I didn't really want to do a lot more because he was so good. You know, it's like if he's being good, I have no reason to try to that's the mindset I was trying to get him into. So why do something that's going to snap him out of it, you know? I'm not saying like don't do anything, but like I felt like I did enough to test it, and he passed really well. So we'll take it. Because there was a couple things I thought I was going to do today that we never did because he was just giving me good responses. Now see there, when he does that, I'll just get a hold of him here and ask him to back up with his head down. And so that just interrupts that thought a little bit. And that's gonna come up, like that's gonna happen. But you just need to do something to get his mind back on you. So that's all it took right there. Or in and out of it, you know. But that's the part that you're never gonna just like delete that. It's like those things are gonna happen, but that's minimal compared to running off or blowing up or running sideways like he was doing yesterday. Hey, let me know in the comments what you guys are taking away from this session. What out of everything we talked about was the most important for you and your horse? So I'm going to bring him over here. And I'm just going to kind of make some commotion with my hand here. Use the rein a bit. And I'm just doing that on the opposite side that I want to release him to. But see, that's a lot different than just coming up here, bringing him a step forward, dropping his head. Does that make sense? And I might be willing to tolerate it a little more on a horse that was maybe a little greener at standing at the mounting block, but with all the work that you've done there, it's like, okay, we're gonna sign you up. And that's what I mean by signing him up. I'm not just getting off and bringing him one step forward. I'm making a little bit bigger deal of it than what he did on purpose to hopefully just advance this a little bit more. And then I'd like you to teach him lateral flexion. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, But I would definitely work on the ground, asking him to flex laterally. Yeah, he needs to get a little better at that. So that's just something like every time you get on, do a little backup, do a little lateral flexion, and then pepper it in throughout the ride. He doesn't like it because he feels like a little claustrophobic. He feels like he's in a bind. So see where his nose is? I only want him to give a slight amount more than that. If I took it more than that, he would get pretty bothered. And so I don't want to go more than that yet, but I want him to get comfortable with that. And it's interesting, he's softer on the right side today. But you see his disposition with me on him is a little quieter than what you had yesterday when you first got on him. But I'm not going to give him too much room here at first. I want to ride on offense. He's going to be a good riding horse because he sees the human as the leader, not because he's a super gentle-natured, quiet horse. So you need to be active of keeping his mind on you, not pulling back on both reins and not controlling him, but just by giving him some things to do. And that's what I mean by riding on offense. Does that make sense to you? And I think before you were riding a little bit on defense. Well, either way, with your saddle, I would just imagine you probably go ahead and pick up a light contact right away. We want to do some things that are a little bit more on a loose rein. And see right here, he hasn't done one circle that counts because he's got to leave his head and neck in on that circle just like we did on the ground. So I haven't gotten one circle yet that I like. So for me, it's not about how many times we do them, it's about the quality of the circle. But he's letting me put my legs on him stronger today. There, that's pretty good. But that's just that, like, he's hard to get him to do that well at a walk when there's no action happening. And that's what makes me think we got to build to the canter a little bit and not just go right to the canter and then try to settle in. So my reins are short, but they're loose. Can you see that? Guess we are going to canter today. That was a nice right lead. But see, I'm giving him a loose rein, and he's telling me that's what I think you're riding with, a little bit too much contact right away. You need to have him short so that you're ready to correct him, but you want to be able to get there by lifting and sliding your hand down like this. Does that make sense? Because this is going to give him more responsibility to maintain gait. Like, that's kind of the priority of this ride, is going to be to utilize relaxed rein and hindquarter yields as recovery strategies. So I want to practice those, but we might as well go ahead and practice those from a trot. You hear that? So he did that quicker today. That's a nice blowout, and he didn't do that on the ground, which is interesting. So that means we set it up right where he's finding relief, because he's the most relaxed now after blowing out than what we did on the ground. So that's a win right there. See there, he's trying to walk counterbent. So I'm gonna call him out on that. And that's something you gotta be aware of when you feel that. His head gets tipped to the outside and I felt my left leg get full. He is pushing his ribs there. It's a subtle thing, but if you're at home riding a horse that is a little sensitive, a little spooky, I don't have to wait for him to spook or do something that I don't want. That counter bend that they pick up is the step before what happens. You know what I mean? So I end up not experiencing a lot of those things because I ride on a loose rein, and control makes the human feel better, it makes them feel worse. So I end up not a lot of times getting the same negative reactions that other people do, just because of the room that I'm giving him, and I'm relaxed, I'm comfortable up here. So if you're not feeling it that day for whatever reason, you're not gonna fool him. You might fool me or somebody else, but don't fake it till you make it. If you're feeling good about it, go for it. If you're not feeling good about it, or even if you're in the middle of the ride and you're not feeling it, go ahead and step off. I wouldn't put him away. I'd do a little work on the ground or something, but don't ever feel like you have to ride through it. That's an old wives' tale of like, oh, you get bucked off, get right back on. It's like, let's figure out why they did that and let's fix that on the ground as best we can. Does that make sense? way less responsive to legs today, or reactive to legs today. My legs are on him as much as they were yesterday, and he's staying chill. So now there, you see that big turn he did? So I'm gonna do a little exercise that I call ride and guide. Now if he really speeds up, then I'll bend him down. Yeah, it feels like a rodeo horse. But you've been kind of, instead of reinforcing a better foundation, you've been covering it up a little bit. And I really believe there's a lot of room for improvement on this horse, which makes me very happy, very excited, because it's more what he doesn't know that's getting in his way. You know what I mean? So when he canters off or goes that fast, I'm not just gonna bend him down, I'm gonna do the hindquarter yield there, and then we'll go on again. What I'm trying to show you though is an exercise called ride and guide, where if I give him a loose rein, he kind of just goes all over the place. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the opposite way of whatever way he's trying to go. Because he needs to settle in. So today we're just kind of letting it hang out there a little bit more. And as it takes more times, I'm going to be a little stronger on the rein, not faster, but stronger on the feel when I ask him to disengage his hindquarters, so that he starts getting the memo of we're not going to be off to the races. Boy, it's really tempting to lope him around because that feels really good. But he can't lope until he can maintain a trot. And imagine now, if you give him a loose rein, he thinks go is just go faster, faster, faster. And now you're riding him with contact, asking him to canter. That's a recipe for him bucking. So to me, that explains why you would get a buck too. Because as a rider, you'd want to feel like, oh, I'm gonna pick up contact to canter. But if you're riding the brake pedal while the gas pedal's stuck to the floor, any feel there is going to cause up instead of out, because you're taking, and he's sensitive, so you're taking away. I'm not taking away his ability to go forward, I'm making it uncomfortable once he does go forward. So any little, like I could make him ride around and make him look a lot better by just picking up a light contact, but I'm telling you, he's got to learn to be responsible for trotting before you can canter him. That's our homework. Now, there's 3 exercises. If he commits to breaking gait, he canters, we're gonna do a hindquarter yield. If he speeds up at the trot like fairly fast, or even just gets emotional, we're gonna do relaxed rein. But otherwise, if he's maintaining trot, we're gonna do ride and guide. And that means we're gonna do a 90-degree turn for one of 2 reasons. If I'm giving him a loose rein and he takes over and turns a hard right or a hard left, I'm gonna turn him the opposite way. If he speeds up a little bit at the trot, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the other way too. So either case, he's gonna run into a little bit of pressure for basically taking over. Taking over leads to taking off, okay? So again, we got a loose rein. Yes, he cantered, but I was trying to catch him, I just wasn't quick enough. Now he's turning left, and I didn't say turn left, so we're gonna turn right. So this is ride and guide. And you're trying to ride squares, and I'm using the turn to rate his speed. Neck rein, direct rein, yes. He's not ready to turn off a leg yet. I'd love to get to that point. That's a lot better. If I was at home training him, I wouldn't canter him for like a month. I would get this trot where I could cruise around and ride him off my leg on a loose rein and get his where he just cruises around on a loose rein at a trot, very easily guided, all those things. But every time he turns when I didn't say turn, see there's that counter bend, there he got worried. So instead of me just turning him there, we're gonna recover. So that's that little feel that you gotta be aware of and go, oh, I don't need to turn there, I need to recover, and ask him to get comfortable again. Because again, if I didn't catch those little moments, it would escalate. It would get bracier and bracier and bracier. It's not just gonna resolve itself. Now, I should have yielded the hindquarters there, but I wasn't really quick enough. And I'm trying to just, so in other words, I don't fix every little tiny thing. You know, if he takes off with a little more intensity, then I might do something about it. Now, another thing you can do, once you get him trotting out kind of about where he is today, you can play with a little exercise where you lift this inside rein and teach him that this means head down. Oh, you already did maybe. There you go. Now there he offered to walk and stop on his own. We'll pet him. I didn't say walk or stop, but that is the exact opposite thing. So again, human instincts tell you, that's not what I said, keep going. No, he just did what we're looking for, of just rating himself, controlling his own emotions. Why not give him a little chance there to go, hey, that was a good idea. It's not quite what I asked yet, but hey, that was a good, thanks for offering that. We call that scan and capture. You scan the moment, the situation, and you capture the good things that you're wanting more of. Instead of saying, no, I said trot, you should be trotting right now. Because human nature says, if Simon didn't say, you shouldn't do it, right? So I actually think that might be a good spot to quit him on, because he had a really good thought there. He got really settled and comfortable, and we can keep going on it. This is one of those moments where you can ask, it's like, we could stop here or we could keep going. And back in the day, I was like, keep going. And I've kind of learned, hey, when they're being really good and putting effort into your idea, if I quit him here, he's apt to be even better tomorrow. Just like yesterday. You could watch what he yesterday and say, well, did he really get that much done? He didn't canter him. I hear this from husbands all the time. Well, he didn't canter, you know, it's like, no, but I put in the mindset. I'm getting to his mind and getting him comfortable. And when you do that, you get more and more and more of what you want. You start getting offered quality and offered responses. And so, yeah, I think we're going to quit him there, and that's a good spot for him. But yeah, he doesn't want to be a rodeo bronc. He wants to be a good boy. He's just got a lot of holes in his understanding. And to be honest, he's trying to be right. Like he's trying to do what I the whole time, even when he was being bad, doing things I didn't want, he was trying to do what he thought I wanted. And that's what I kind of feel for him a little bit, because he just had, his training was just, he was very unsure of what was going on. And so he was just kind of making stuff up that he thought was right. But he does want to be a good boy. So that's the good news. Some horses want to be a prey animal. You know what I mean? They're not like real sure on, they're not picking up what we're putting down, but he wants to be a good boy. He wants to try hard. Yeah, we just had to give him the opportunity.